Want to know the secret to getting ahead in pretty much anything in life? Now, I always kind of cringe a little bit when I hear this. It's simple, but it's not easy. And what it is consistency. So as female creatives and entrepreneurs, we have extra demands put on us. We have to put in a lot of extra effort because we're often taking care of more than just our business. But the one thing you can control is your consistency. So today I want to talk about being consistent, why consistency is key, and common obstacles that we face when we are trying to show up on the regular. And finally, how to overcome those obstacles. So let's get into it. So why is consistency key? Reason one is consistency builds reliability and trust with your customers, with your partners, with your employees, with your relationships. So really cool story I came across while I was researching for this post. Look up Newsette. I'll actually put a link to them down below. I have a history in journalism, and this company built a multi-million-dollar business on an email newsletter. And the company founder, one of the reasons why she said she was successful was because of consistency, just showing up. They actually have a daily newsletter and they show up every single day. They also picked a really important audience. They picked, top businesswomen. So businesswomen that are motivated, and they just provide them a daily recap of what's going on. And they show up every single day in somebody's email box, and they've built trust and ensure that it's a quality email. Actually, I subscribed. I know it is. So multi-million-dollar business, you guys, built on consistency. Another reason is consistent action over time will lead to tangible results and progress towards your goals. And this goes back to a fairy tale we all knew as children, the tortoise and the hare, right? That hare ran and took off fast, but the tortoise ended up winning just slow, steady progress. So it shows that just tiny little steps consistently over time will show big, big results. And finally, consistency even helps you overcome obstacles and maintain momentum when you're faced with challenges. I'm going to throw up here this Twitter post, and it's just a simple math problem, but it shows you that 0.01% of effort makes a huge difference, right? Look at the differential in those two math problems. Look at that huge difference. It doesn't seem like a lot, a tiny little decimal point. Look at how much more momentum you got from that small little change. So just do the math. If you're a math person, it makes sense, you guys. Okay, so we talked about why consistency is important, but let's look at what gets in the way of us being consistent. And it can be hard. Actually, I've been told again and again that consistency is one of my superpowers, but it still is a struggle on many days. And I know it is a struggle for many of you as well. So let's look at why. And the first has to do with motivation. We're just not really wanting to show up, whether it be posting consistently on social media. Maybe it's making, time regularly for a relationship. Maybe it's reaching out to X number of clients for sales calls on a weekly basis. Whatever it is, we struggle for that consistency because we're not motivated to do it. So if motivation is your struggle, the key here is to find your why. Why are you doing it? Why do you want to show up on social media on a regular basis? It's got to be more than just to grow my brand. You really have to have a deep desire to help and educate others, to look at like the art of it, to get some joy out of the process of putting those posts together, and get really, really clear on that. And on the days when you're struggling to show up, connect with that why and do it anyways. It truly, it's not easy. Like I said, it's simple, but it's not easy. I know, makes me cringe also. And then another reason why is a lack of inspiration. I have been doing a ton of research lately on sleep because it's been a struggle for me. And something that I've come across that is interesting has to do with inspiration and creativity that we can tap into in our dreams. And there is actually a lot of science and stories from our history about how leaders in industry and artists have used the power and creativity of dreams to inspire them to work. And you can use this to become more creative too, just by paying attention to what's going on in your dreams. And people have gone so far as sleeping, like with a pen in their hand, falling asleep. And then when the pen drops, it wakes them up. And then just jotting down what's going on in your dreams. I don't know if I would go that far, especially since I'm working on trying to get more sleep. But just keep a journal by your bed and jot down what dreams you have each night. And you can draw from that for inspiration. Oftentimes, the problems we're working on in our lives, our subconscious is working out in our brains while we're sleeping. So if you're not paying attention to those dreams, you're missing out on a natural resource of inspiration for yourself. Another thing that gets in the way when we are trying to be more consistent is distraction and time management issues. I actually did an entire video on how to focus. So I will link that right up above, but I'll point just one thing out if you don't want to go down that rabbit hole, is use the focus feature on your Apple iPhone. It's called something else on an Android, but it is so simple to set up. It's going to take you like 5 minutes. I get into the whole details of how to do it in that video. But it's really preemptive, and it will stop those bings and dings and let you tailor how you want to be interrupted when it comes to technology. So please, please, please take the time to set that up. And then the final one is self-doubt and the fear of failure. And actually, this was our subject of the last video. So I'll link to that up above as well. But the reality is, here, my friend, is you've got to get over that and show up anyways. And that video goes into all the details on how to do that and why our root causes for our fear of failure. But you've got to find a way over or around or under that obstacle and continue to be consistent. That's the only way to do it. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but that's the reality. Okay, so we talked about why consistency is important. We talked about common obstacles that get in our way when we're trying to be consistent. So now let's look at overcoming these obstacles through the power of consistency. The first is establishing a routine and sticking to it. You guys know I love to talk about the reset routine. I'll link it down below. But there's a lot of power in sticking to routine. I wanted to give you one little caveat here, and that is make sure that you're clear on what your action steps are. It's not enough to say, I want to work on XYZ project from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. tomorrow. You have to get a lot more detail when you're creating this routine to do it. Let me give you an example of what happened. I talked about this story once before, and I was working on a project, I believe it was for my filming a video for the Life After Busy Bootcamp. And I had written in my time block, like work on Life Diver Busy Boot Camp. I had a, an hour time block set aside for it on a particular day. What I didn't realize was oftentimes I don't have my hair and makeup done. If I'm not videoing on a particular day, I'm just showing up with like messy bun and sweatpants. That's life. But I was supposed to record a video that day, and I did not write that detail down when I was going through my reset routine. So what ended up happening was I skipped a day of filming because I wasn't ready to record that video when the time block came. And it got me behind on the entire project. So really establishing a routine and sticking to it and being really clear on what those steps are is so important. But there's lots of different routines you can establish: a morning routine, a startup routine, a shutdown routine, an evening routine, lots of routines. But think about what you're trying to be consistent with, and then create a routine that supports that thing. Another thing to point out when it comes to routine is get familiar with the steps in the process. Whenever we're starting something new, there's a lot of unknowns, right? We don't know how long it's going to take us to set up, film, edit, and publish a YouTube video, for example. And after you've done it a few times, just take note to how much time all of that is going to take you, so that when you lay out that routine, you're budgeting enough time for yourself to be supported in that creative routine, that creative process. I do have a blog post all about the benefits of routine, and I'll link that down below. And finally, the last thing with routine is show up even on the hard days. So we talked about that a little bit before, but when you have a routine and you know what you're going to be doing, even though you don't want to, that routine is going to show you that it's so powerful to even show up when you don't want to. It's that resiliency that you're building up inside of yourself when you show up on those hard days, because you can believe more in you and the fact that you have that routine to support you. Another way to overcome the obstacles when it comes to being more consistent is to surround yourself with supportive people and a positive environment. It's hard enough to show up on the hard days, but it's even harder when you have an unsupportive environment and people around you. So, you've heard me talk a lot before about, moving yourself as much as you can from people that don't support you. But how about your environment? What do I mean by that? So say that you're working in an office, and actually I'll use my office as an example. There's a walkway that goes right outside my office window. There's a parkway that goes down, and oftentimes there's people jogging or running. Not that this is not a supportive environment, but if I happen to have not worked out on that particular day, just seeing or hearing those people go by can pull away from my consistency, because my mind starts to wander and go off into a rabbit hole about how I'm going to fit in my workout later on today. So one way that you can eliminate that and create a more supportive environment for staying focused and staying consistent is to fill your space with some white noise that helps focus, or that helps keep your mind off of what's going on outside your window. But there's lots of different things. Maybe it's a pile of clutter in your office that distracts you when you're trying to do work that's hard to do. So there can be lots of different things inside of your environment that pull you away from your consistency. Okay, another way to create a supportive environment for yourself is to curate your social media feed, and curate, honestly, any sort of media that you're consuming. If it doesn't make you want to show up and be consistent for whatever it is you're doing, if you see that picture of your competitor sharing, their amazing vacation, and you're like, God, I'm over here working so hard. Why can't I be like her? And it just makes you feel like you want to throw in the towel. Maybe it's time to put that person on pause. No, it is time to put that person on pause. There are so many inspirational people out there to fill up your social media feed. That is what you need to be paying attention to. Okay, that is what you need to be listening to. Maybe it's a book. Maybe that's what you need to be reading. Okay, my final tip to share on overcoming the obstacles of being consistent is to reframe self-doubt as just part of the process. And you're going to continue to show, fear showing up, fear being consistent, because you're not sure if you're enough. You're not sure if you're as good as that competitor. You're not sure of what your friends or your family are going to think of you. I actually just finished reading an amazing book that I want to share with you. It's called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. And this has been the best tool for me lately when that self-doubt starts creeping in for me. And often, like I shared before, my sleep has been an issue, and that's when self-doubt will creep in. My mind will start going and reviewing all the reasons why I'm not enough. And I'll link the book down below, but I'll just boil it down to like one simple little phrase for you guys. And when you hear those thoughts coming up, stop them and just repeat out loud if you want to. I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. That's all you have to say. And you can say it silently in your head and just say it again and again and again until that groove lays down deep inside of your brain. Because self-doubt is going to come up, but you have to be stronger than that self-doubt in order to continue to be consistent and finally make progress on all those things that are really, really important to you, because you can control your consistency. I did an entire video on answering the question, is it time to reframe? So if you want to learn more about reframing, I will see you over there. Thank you so much for listening in today. See you next week.